There's been a lot of low points over the last 4 years of Florida State football. I guess we could have a debate as which one is the lowest, but certainly this would be in the running. And considering this is the most recent and this is coming after all the other low points, I'd have to vote for the Jacksonville State loss on a Hail Mary against a questionable defense. Should be an interesting Florida State live. We got Jason Parker on the line, of course, from NBC6. Jason.
Yeah. Let's see. What words can we use to describe what happened on Saturday? Disgusting, despicable, pathetic, horrible, the worst loss. I'm just saying that was the worst loss in Florida State football history. In the 75 seasons of Florida State football, that was without a doubt the worst loss. That was the loss of – we'll talk about it over the next hour, but there's a serious question whether this program is going to be able to bounce back from this. And I have serious doubts. First of all, let me apologize to Jacksonville State. As it's sundown tonight, as we're recording this, it's Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. We're supposed to atone for our sins in the Jewish faith. I'd like to apologize and atone to Jacksonville State for saying that Florida State would score 50 points on you. I would like to atone for saying that Florida State would beat you. Obviously, we are not good enough to compete with a team from the Atlantic Sun. That's what I learned this weekend. And the fact that that happened is embarrassing, I think is the best word. I'd also like to give a shout out to Logan. Logan, who didn't show up tonight. I think he was afraid. He was afraid of what was going to happen. He was afraid of the ethering we were about to do of Mike Norvell, what I was going to do. So wherever you are, Logan, this night's for you.
So, Jason, first and foremost, in all seriousness, is there anything else that needs to be stated about Yom Kippur in regards to the observance, or anything else that we can do to honor it here?
I'm going to be hungry for the next 24 hours because you can't eat. So I'm going to be real hangry. It's a good thing we're taping this tonight, not on Thursday night, because then I'd be really hangry. Then I'd just get angry. My venom would just go crazy.
Okay. All right. Where do we go with this? Because I believe it's the only loss to an FCS opponent in the history of the school, correct?
Correct. And what it is there's a few problems with what took place. And let's start with the loss itself. How do you go from being in overtime against the ranked number 9 team in the country, Notre Dame, which we talked about last week, that I thought Notre Dame came in overrated. Notre Dame had to come back to beat Toledo last weekend, so I think Notre Dame has been exposed a little bit. But that being said, Florida State went into overtime with the 9th ranked team in the country. And then you lose the following week to Jacksonville State, a team in the FCS level. Since 1978, when it was broken up into FBS, well, at the time Division 1A, Division 1AA, now FBS, FCS, Florida State has never lost. Miami has lost. In 1979, they lost to FAMU. Florida lost in 2013 when they lost to Georgia Southern. Every other FBS team in the state of Florida, except for FAU, has lost to an FCS team. We can't make fun of Florida anymore. We can't make fun of Miami for their loss. We can't make fun of Miami for losing FIU. We lost a game we had no business losing. There are so many questions that you have to bring up for why we lost. You talked about the Hail Mary play. I'm sorry. I'm just going to come out and say it. The fact that Adam Fuller, defense coordinator, was not immediately relieved of his duties right after that game, to me, is the first problem. And it's not just because you lost to Jacksonville State. But this was the year the defense was supposed to be better. We talked about it all offseason, how the defense was going to be better. Last year they gave up 36 points a game. It's going to be better this year. You bring in Jermaine Johnson. I feel bad for Jermaine Johnson. The man's got 4 sacks through his first 2 games. I bet he wishes he was back in Georgia, the number 2 ranked team in the country. I'm not saying he would produce the same numbers there, but he has a better chance of being in the playoffs there. He might not even make it to a bowl game right now at Florida State. You have the performance last year. You're saying, okay, on defense, things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. And then you give up 41 points in the opener. You give up 13 points in the last 5 minutes of the game, including a Hail Mary play. I'm sorry, Jarvis Brownlee, what were you doing on that one? The blown coverage there on that one. You've got one of your starting defensive back getting blown coverage by a wide receiver from Jacksonville State. So that's my first issue. The fact that Adam Fuller was not relieved of his duties immediately after the game is the first problem. The second problem I have is why, with less than 2 minutes to go, you're up 17-14. You've got the ball 3rd and 1. James Coleman, Big Game James, comes on here all the time. We love having him on here. He played that fullback role. Give it to the fullback, get 1 yard, run in there, you got this. Hell, you put Jordan Travis in there at quarterback, and we'll talk about that in one moment. You put Jordan Travis in there at quarterback, he can extend out and get the 3 feet to get that 1 yard, 3rd and 1. You get that you convert that 3rd down, you leave with an embarrassing 17-14 win instead of a humiliating 20-17 loss. Why we continue to go back into this wildcat formation, it doesn't work. It worked one time for a touchdown against Notre Dame. I will give that credit. But for the most part, it has not worked because we do not have an offensive line that can get the push to get substantial gains. And in a play like that, you just have to get the 1st down. That's my point on the offensive side of the ball. I'm sorry, why was Mackenzie Milton the starting quarterback in the game? Look at the stats. Against Notre Dame, against the 9th-ranked team in the country, Jordan Travis threw for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also threw 3 interceptions. Let's be transparent there. Mackenzie Milton, let's start him against Jacksonville State. He's going to do so much better. He threw for, hold on, let me look at the numbers real quick, 133 yards. He threw for 3 more yards against an FCS opponent and threw for 1 touchdown and 1 interception. And that's getting him the start against Wake Forest. He's already been named the starter against Wake Forest. So let's just recap. Jordan Travis, 130 and 2 touchdowns against the number 9 ranked team in the country, can't start against Jacksonville State. Mackenzie Milton, 133 and 1 touchdown in the most embarrassing loss in program history. You get a second chance. We talked a little bit about this before the show. I seriously think Mike Norvell, I'm not going to rip on him too much, although he deserves plenty. Because let's just remember, we talked about this since 1978. Bobby Bowden never lost to an FCS team. Jimbo Fisher never lost to an FCS team. Willie Taggart never lost to an FCS team. This one is on Mike Norvell. Granted, let's give him credit. Mike Norvell owned up to it in this post-game press conference and has owned up to it over the course of the week. I do seriously think it has to look at, does Mike Norvell, I don't want to use the wrong term on this one, is there a point of Mike Norvell where he realizes that Florida State can't afford to move on from him? Is there a point where he realizes that aside from Florida State going 2-10 this season, and for the record, I'm not selling Florida State is going to go 2-10. I think Florida State, I hope, I pray at synagogue, I'll be praying that Florida State can somehow get to 6-6 this season. But aside from Florida State just going 1-11, 2-10, I think Mike Norvell knows his job is safe because right now Florida State can't afford another coaching buyout. I don't feel like he's coaching with that sense of urgency. And you talked about it a little in the offseason, Mark, and Logan's talked about how last season, how he didn't have a spring in 2020, how he didn't have, the proper everything to get ready for last season. That's one of the things that helped lead to the 3-6 year last year. That's fine. I'll get it. He had a full spring. He had a full fall. He had the whole team was in Tallahassee. Everything came together. And you lost to Jacksonville State. All that goodwill from the Notre Dame game, all that goodwill from the offseason, all that goodwill from the recruiting classes has been gone. That's not just me saying it. That's Kurt Weiler from the Tallahassee Democrat, Matt Baker from the Tampa Bay Times. Numerous writers across the country have said that. He has lost all goodwill. He has lost all the good things he had going for them with this loss. And that's where the question has to come. Now you are officially at rock bottom. What happens next?
There's an ACC schedule to play, and of course, Florida's the final game of the season, but all ACC games between now and then, there's one other game. Yes.
We hopefully will beat UMass for homecoming on October 23rd. I think we can beat UMass. I think if Walt Bell is still the coach, former offensive coordinator of Florida State, I hope I will be at that game. I will be at homecoming this year. I hope. Now, for the record, let me just say, for all the fans who are saying that I am hating on the Noles and whatnot, sorry, I'm going to use the one word we're allowed to use here. You can all go to hell. I'm going to be at the Syracuse game rooting for Florida State. I'm going to be at the Miami game rooting for Florida State. I'm going to be in Gainesville rooting for Florida State against Florida. I'm going to be at homecoming rooting for us against UMass. You can support the Noles and admit that we are a dumpster fire.
Absolutely.
So
I've said it many times, both in private to Jason and everybody else on the show, Logan and James. Of course, James has a more unique investment in the program, having played for the team, but certainly as a graduate and soon to be graduate. In Logan's case, I have all due respect for your standing as a Florida State alumni / fan. People that don't go to the school or have not graduated from any particular school don't know that there is an attachment there that can't be explained. It should be understood. It's difficult to explain. There's just an attachment and investment and loyalty and allegiance there, and you certainly have it. You want this team to go 12-0 and go to the ACC championship game and win them all, of course.
Yeah, at this rate, I would like us to go 2-10. I mean, what are you talking about? We'll talk about it over the course of the next few minutes, but you have to ask. You talk a little bit about the ACC play. Florida State now goes up to Wake Forest. We're a 5.5-point underdog right now against Wake Forest. Judging by what took place last week, I joke a little bit about the UMass game. I think UMass is a win, and I think Florida State will get some wins over the course of the season. But where is the confidence? Where is the confidence that this team can beat Wake Forest? Where is the confidence that this team can beat Syracuse in 2 weeks? I think Syracuse and on paper, Syracuse and UMass are two winnable games, but so was Jacksonville State. Where is this team's mindset right now? I think is the other question. Is you have a loss like this, and you look at, for example, and the Miami fans on here, and Cam Underwood, who you'll be doing your show with later on tonight, they remember when Miami lost to FIU and how that pretty much was a disaster for that program. How they lost their last game of the season to Duke in the regular season and got shut out by Louisiana Tech in the bowl game. How that loss hurt them. With this loss being in the second game of the season, you have to ask, how long is this going to linger? Especially if they do lose to Wake Forest. If you lose to Wake Forest and then you come back to Tallahassee for that Louisville game on September 25th with an 0-3 record, when you should have at the start of the season on paper been 2-1, that's a gut punch. And that's where you have to ask, at what point do you just hit the panic button for this team right now? This is a depressing show right now.
It is a depressing show, and I don't even have an investment in it. I'm a neutral observer here, /analyst, / just college football fan. And my assessment of Mike Norvell, it's going to change game by game. So for anybody who has listened to me, I've tried to be fair, neutral, unbiased, and just evaluate. But of course, this is the next data point. And just about everything that happened on the football field last year was negative. Most of it. There was the North Carolina win. Obviously, there were 2 other wins during the season. But in regards to a high point, it was the North Carolina game. And then there were some atrocious losses. The Louisville game, to your point many times, coming off North Carolina and not being able to sustain that momentum, that high, to take that on the road and just get obliterated by a bad football team by 32 points. There were a lot of lows to last season. I hope I've communicated clearly that I didn't necessarily excuse Mike Norvell, but I gave a explanation to this is what was difficult for him and any first-year head coach across the nation in not having that face-to-face contact as a head coach and a coaching staff with your team for most of the preseason and the offseason. Okay, that said,
I was going to start with Jordan Bowman here. Is talking about the final
play.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Jarvis Brownlee who gets beat deep on the play. So the question number one you have to ask is, it's the final play of the game. There were 6 seconds left on the clock, I believe, when the play started. Why are you not playing deep? You know that they're on the 41-yard line. They're 59 yards away, except unless they throw a simple, 20-yard slant play, hope to get out of bounds with 1 second left, maybe kick a field goal and force overtime. You're in a situation where you can play deep and just play almost, for lack of a better term, prevent defense. I seriously think Mike Norvell is just covering at this point. And we've talked a little bit about the past, and you and Logan have kind of in the past, we've gone back and forth about this when I've said one of the issues with Willie Taggart was Jimbo Fisher left him with a lot of issues, and you said, no, it's the coach. The coach has to own it. This is Mike Norvell's because right now 62% of that roster has been a part of the 2020 signing class, the 2021 signing class, or transferred in during the 2020 or 2021 season. That's nearly 2/3 of that roster is Mike Norvell's roster. 2/3 of that loss, nearly 2/3 of that loss belongs to Mike Norvell, is a Mike Norvell investment in the program. That's why I'm sorry. What bothers me the most is this. When Willie Taggart was fired after going 4-5, they were 4-5 after he was fired after the Miami loss in the 2019 season. David Coburn, who's the athletic director, said a 6-6 record won't cut it. That was the justification why Willie Taggart was fired, because the year before he'd been 5-7. That year they finished. They were 4-5. They actually finished the regular season 6-6, ironically. But his big deal was a 6-6 record won't cut it. A 6-6 record's just not going to get the job done. Right now, Florida State has to finish their season 6-4 just to get to 6-6, just to have their second winning regular season in the last 4 years. And I'll ask you, from an objective side, as somebody who's just covers the sport, what 6 wins do we have? Looking at that schedule, do I think we have the talent that can win 6 games? Sure, I think we have the talent that can. But right now, if I said you have to bet all your money that Florida State will go 6-4 the rest of the regular season, I know you're not going to bet that money. You're not going to bet your house on that. I might bet my old iPhone 7S, but that might be it.
I'm going to address a couple little loose ends here. Hi, Cheryl, by the way. Cheryl, our moderator. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, Cheryl, we appreciate you being here for all the shows. So back to that play. I'm not going to go through the whole play because I've seen the play once. I only watched the play. I didn't diagnose it or anything like that. But, okay, 41-yard line, 6 seconds left, up by 3.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, they can do basically 3 things. Obviously, they could do a zillion things, but they fall in 3 buckets. Basically, you throw the Hail Mary, number 1, or number 2, you throw maybe a quick out, depending on how good your field goal kicker is, which, of course, we didn't see him kick a field goal, so I don't know how good the Jacksonville State kicker is, but you throw like that because you're looking at a 58-yard field goal. You throw that little out, get yourself like 8 yards, boom. You see that done from time to time. You still have 2 seconds on the clock. Then you kick the 50-yard field goal if your kicker's that good and you're confident to try to tie the game. Or you try to run some kind of crazy hook and ladder, a zillion laterals. You do some trick play to try to get yourself the yardage. So they obviously weren't prepared for the Hail Mary, although they had 2 defenders at the 5-yard line, and they both played very conservatively.
It wasn't even a Hail Mary. It was more like
true. It wasn't.
It was a 40-yard pass.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Well, Cooper threw and give Jackson State the credit. They executed the job, but it wasn't even a Hail Mary. It was a 40-yard pass. And then it was our defense match. You had 2 guys right there. Either one of them could have made it, could have made the tackle, save them, stop it, get the embarrassing win, go out of there. We're 1-1 right now, and we've moved on. But that you had those chances. But it goes back to before. It goes back to trying to do too much. Sometimes you have to go old school. I talk about it. The play that lost that game was going Wildcat on 3rd and 1 when they were on offense on the drive before. That was the play that killed it because you could have gotten the first down just by playing, for lack of a better term, conservative football. You either quarterback sneak, push it up. If you want to trust Jayshon Coburn or one of the running backs to just try to get a yard, fine, that's great. Or you just tell the center, push as far as you can. Let me get my 1 yard. You put Jordan Travis in the game because you trust his legs better than Mackenzie Milton. That's where the game was lost even before this. And then I think the other question you have to ask is what did Jordan Travis really do to not – Jordan Travis did not attempt to pass that game. Jordan Travis threw the 2 touchdowns against Notre Dame. Jordan Travis was yes, Mackenzie Milton led the 2 last drives to tie the game in regulation against Notre Dame. Jordan Travis also beat Jacksonville State last year. Jordan Travis came in after Tate Rodemaker threw the first interception of the game, and Jordan Travis came in and led the comeback to help us beat Jacksonville State in 2020. Why was he not given a chance to do more in this game? That's the question. These are the questions that need to be asked.
No, it's fair. And let me clean up a few things. So I screwed up on one note here. So I did not realize, I've seen the play again one time. I did not watch Jacksonville State and Florida State.
What?
So for those of you who watch me beyond the Florida State channel, know I'm trying to watch everybody at the same time. So yeah, I got kind of lured away by like Michigan, Washington, Texas, Arkansas, some other games. So did not watch one play of the game, except of course.
Miami Appalachian State.
Yeah. Had to watch that game.
Yeah,
Miami. You talk about they were like a 15-yard completion away from losing that game too. They were lucky to get a couple dropped passes on that final drive by App State, or they're kicking the game-winning field goal. So my apologies. Number one, the ball was on Florida State's 41, not the opposition's 41. So let me correct that. I thought that they were at the other 41, and again, I saw the play one time. So, and then to Jason's point, it was not a true Hail Mary. You run everyone to the end zone and heave it up in the air for a true Hail Mary. Yeah, he just ran like a go route, and he just high pointed the football versus the 2 defenders who kind of backed off the ball, which I understand. The game's over if you can bring the guy to the ground. You got 2 guys right there to bring the wide receiver to the ground, and you get off the field, to your point, with an embarrassing win, but at least it's a win, and you move on at 1-1, and at least you can take the embarrassing comments and the criticism with a win. Wow. And once I read this, the scoring summary and the game recap, to know that they were up 17-14, killing the clock, about to score the touchdown to ice the game.
Sorry, they were up 17-7. With
17-7, yeah, before that.
5 minutes to go. So,
yeah, 17-7, 5 minutes to go. But on that final drive, give up the ball, trying to ice the game, and let them drive the length of the field. Wow, a lot bad had to happen the last 5 minutes of that game.
You're really just the bastion of positivity here today, Mark. You're really just bringing your positive atmosphere to us here.
I'm just trying to clarify the situation here. Like it was never well in hand, but still, when you're up 2 scores with 5 minutes left, you should be in good shape.
Fans, make sure you comment on Mark's positive energy he's bringing here to Florida State Live with us today as we talk about what happened. Shout out to the FSU soccer team. Finally, one football team that's winning up there. So that's where we're at right now. We're a soccer school. We're a basketball school. We're everything.
We got a soccer comment out of Jason after 2 games.
Guess what? If we lose to Wake Forest, you might start to get a volleyball comment or a basketball comment or something.
So you asked the question about my confidence of how many games they're going to win this year. Well, I'm the guy that only picked them to win 5 to begin with, and this was supposed to be one of them.
Yeah. I picked us to win 7, and at this rate, I look like the idiot.
You don't look like the idiot. I think you were pretty much in the camp of most people, not just Florida State fans. Most people were in the, okay, they're going to bounce back. They got a pretty talented roster, tough schedule, 7-5. And I certainly contemplated it, but the more I thought about Jordan Travis isn't a good quarterback, and Mackenzie Milton, I don't know if he's going to be able to stay upright or to your point that you made many times during the offseason, be the quarterback that he was, even if he is upright, which to this showing doesn't appear as though he is. It was tough for me to squeeze more than 5 wins out of the schedule.
And here's the thing, like if you want to look at the rosters. For example, the roster that Florida State will be playing against Wake Forest this week. I would argue we have the more athletic roster. We have more talent on our roster than Wake Forest. That being said, right now Wake Forest is a better team. I mean, Wake Forest in 2019, you could argue if we stop one field goal attempt, I believe they kicked 5 field goals in that game against us. If we stop one of them, you could argue Willie Taggart does not lose his job because we win that game. I mean, that's where we're at right there. We're at the point where TFJ Boxing is giving us $50 because he feels bad for us right now.
He does, that we have to go through this for an hour.
We're sitting Shiva for the Florida State football team right now at this rate.
TFJ Boxing, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Thank you.
TFJ Boxing was one of the people who told me I needed to go all in on Logan for Logan's pro Mike Norvell stance. I tried to TFJ Boxing. He's too busy he claims school. Now, anyone who knows Logan, by the way, let's give a quick shout out to Logan, Noel Game Day, now part of the Sports Illustrated empire. They signed on this past week, so let's give a great job to Logan. Congratulations, all the people at Noel Game Day. Great work. Keep it going, guys. We do love you guys over there. But he claims schoolwork. I think he's out drinking at the bar. I want to know if Logan has left the bar since Saturday night. If you've seen Logan in Tallahassee outside of a bar setting, please contact us and let us know.
Of course, that Noel Game Day announcement came about 2 hours after I turned down SI for that agreement. Kidding, of course, but we like to stay independent here at the Voice of College Football.
They haven't offered me yet, so it's fine.
TFJ Boxing, thank you so much for that. We appreciate that. And TFJ typically does not have anything to say or add, just wants to contribute, enjoys the conversation.
TFJ Boxing will be going to the Wake Forest game. He will be one of the Noles in at the high school stadium that is BB&T Field or Truist Field or whatever it's called now. So,
if we took the Wake Forest recruiting classes that currently consist in this roster, they are in the 45 to 50 range. I can do my homework right here, but it's a pretty educated guess versus, yes, the Florida State roster being comprised of recruiting classes in the 15 to 20 range.
So legitimately, the question you have to ask is, can Florida State turn it around? This is the panic mode. Because you look at it like this. If you play Wake Forest this week, you've got a Louisville team next week that beat the snot out of you by 32 points last season. Then you've got a Syracuse team at home that you didn't play last season. You beat them convincingly in 2019, but they also beat the heck out of you in 2018. So you've split the last two against them. And then you go on the road to North Carolina for your first road game in a big hostile setting. So that's why Wake Forest, you have to get the win. I said it before that this is the most important game of the season because it was on paper at the start of the year. It was the first game that was a toss-up game. Now it's a must-win because I feel like if you lose to Wake Forest, as much as I hate to say it, if you lose to Wake Forest, it could set things up to where Florida State could legitimately go into the North Carolina game 0-5. I don't want to say it. I don't think that will happen. But there is a legitimate argument that could happen.
Joseph Hardaway is saying, why into hell?
Why
the hell? My apologies there. I should have my glasses on. They're broken. Can every other college football team offense flow way smoother than ours?
Because you're trying to run it's one of the same issues that I had with Willie Taggart and when he tried to bring in that Gulf Coast offense, what he called the Gulf Coast offense in 2018. Sometimes when you're playing Power 5 schools, when you're playing big boy schools, you don't need to play backyard AAC football, backyard, MAC football. Sometimes, like I said, on 3rd and 1, it's okay to run the ball under center. On 3rd and 1, it's okay to just get the first out. Sometimes you have to play old school, boring football. Thank you, Tildog. 100%, appreciate it. But sometimes you have to play that. And I feel like there's part of Mike Norvell that's trying to be flashy, trying to be, do the same stuff he did in Memphis. Right now, at this point, in the words of Al Davis, just win. Just win a game. You've got to get that first win. There comes a point where flashiness does not work. Just run the damn ball, get the first down, and get out with a win.
How does Tildog not give me credit on this comment?
Because you came hard in the paint against Willie a couple times. You and Logan. You did.
I said on the record dozens of times, I didn't think Willie Taggart should have been hired. Didn't think he was a good coach, but should not have been fired. I've said that many times. I would have given him a 3rd season. I'm on record of saying that for ever since it happened. Mm-hmm. I'm on record for saying Willie Taggart should not have been fired. It was not enough of a sample size for him to be fired. He was unfairly fired.
I guess my position would be for some of the fans, and I'm going to say it, and this may be a little controversial, but I'm going to say it. Some of the fans, not some of the fans on here, but some of the fans in general on social media and whatnot are really showing the real reasons why they didn't like Willie Taggart. If you're willing to stick around and say you've got to support Florida State, support Mike Norvell after the worst loss in program history, but you didn't have that same support when Florida State lost to Virginia Tech in the opener in 2018 or lost to Syracuse in the 3rd game of that season. You were literally there were calls for Willie Taggart to be fired after that Syracuse game. Admittedly, a bad game. But if you're not going to support Florida State at that point, but you're going to support a coach after the first FCS loss in program history, what is that about? What is that really about? If you're fine with Mike Norvell losing the worst game in program history, let's just let that sink in for a second, fans. We just lost to Jacksonville State, a team we beat last season and lost to this year. Yes, it was a last-second play. I'll give you that. That's fine. We lost to Jacksonville State. We should not have been in that position to be only up 17-14 with 6 seconds to go. We should have never been in that spot to begin with. But if you are not willing to be as supportive when Willie Taggart was the coach, but you're willing to support Mike Norvell, why is that? I don't want to say why it is, but I think everyone knows the reason why there are some fans that feel like that. Not all fans, but some. And that's,
well, I hope not all fans. Well, I hope not even some fans, but we know that that's the truth. So Ollie makes a good point here. So I had heard this from a few other people, and this is one of the times in which I had some kind of elaborate staff where I could be doing other things like saying, you know what, I heard Mackenzie Milton threw the ball pretty well on Saturday night. I'm going to go back and watch all of his throws and see how many times he got let down. So I was hearing from a number of people that there were considerable dropped passes in the game.
There were considerable dropped passes. But then that's a point where it goes back to what we said. If the passing game is not working, then you need to run the ball. And I'm pulling up the stats here for 1 minute, but you have Jayshon Corbin that ran the ball 15 times for 109 yards, and he had a touchdown. So he's running the ball for 7 yards a carry in the game. It's the same rushing game that worked against Notre Dame. Corbin ran for 109 yards on 15 carries, so he's averaging 7 yards a carry. Trayshawn Ward ran 8 carries for 5 yards, so he's averaging just over 5.5 yards a carry. So for both of them, that's 2 runs and that's a first down. Just run the ball. It doesn't have to be sexy. At this point, the 99 Seminoles aren't coming through that door. The 2013 Seminoles aren't coming through that door. Just run the damn ball, get out of there with a win, maybe score another touchdown. You win 24-14. You can breathe slightly easier. Yes, I will 100% give you credit. He was throwing dimes, buddy. He threw for 133 yards against Jacksonville State Ali Khan, I get that you want to defend, and I get that there's a lot of people who are saying, oh, Mackenzie Milton's a great story. It's a great story. Yes, it's a great story. Mackenzie Milton did not earn the right to start against Wake Forest.
Well, the only point I'm making there, Jason, is the obvious one. He can't catch the ball. So he went, what was his attempts and completions?
Well, now you're making me pull up another tab.
Well, I've got the Jayshon Corbin. I'll take off on the Jayshon Corbin part of this because I was going to bring him up as well. And you don't have to be an offensive genius to see 15 for 109, 15 for 144 against Notre Dame. Maybe he needs to carry the ball a little bit more.
I mean, that's the point where you just have to realize at some point there's a fine time to be sexy, and some point there's a fine time to get the job done. And the running game on the outside, the running game on sweep plays and whatnot, when you get outside the line, it is working. So go with that.
Can somebody supply us that is going to accurately supply us with this information? How many dropped passes there were in the game? Acknowledging that there are always going to be drop passes, but there shouldn't be a ton. Maybe 2 per game from a decent team. 31 attempts, 18 completions. Maybe if he completes 4 more balls that are dropped, he's throwing for 220.
And I get that, and I'm not. Once again, I'm not blaming. This was a team loss. I'm not single-handedly blaming Mackenzie Milton. I'm not single-handedly blaming Mike Norvell. I'm not single-handedly blaming Kenny Dillingham. I'm not single-handedly blaming Adam Fuller. But there comes a point where it was not 58 drop passes. It felt like 58 drop passes, but there was not 58 drop passes.
Thanks, Hippopotamus. Thank you so much for the accurate count.
Yes,
appreciate that.
Great job. But there comes a point where if the passing game, that's the question. If the passing game was not working, then why is Kenny Dillingham still going to it? If Kenny Dillingham is the one who's totally responsible for the offense, at this rate as the offensive coordinator, then why is he not adjusting the game plan? Why is Mike Norvell not stepping in and adjusting the game plan? Brian Young, listen. I hope you're right. As the biased Florida State person in me, spoiler alert, when Mark says when we pick our games later, I'm probably going to end up picking us beat Wake Forest because I'm blindly loyal to the Garnet and Gold. But there has to come a point where you have to realize at what point are we going to keep making excuses for the rock bottom? We made excuses after last year. It was 3-6. I listened to Mark and Logan talk about no spring ball. Yeah, they didn't have spring ball. They didn't have a chance to work together. Well, that wasn't a problem for Alabama. That wasn't a problem for a lot of other teams last season. Granted, those teams have a lot more talent than we did, but there comes a point where you just have to admit you've hit rock bottom. Milton put the ball there. 133 yards. You threw for 133 yards against Jacksonville State. This is the point right here that I'm talking about. We've got people here, not just people here, people on social media who want to make excuses for a 3-point loss to an FCS opponent. The worst loss in program history, and you've got the yeah, but crowd.
Well, I don't know if this is an excuse. This is just explaining that Mackenzie Milton threw the ball better than 18 for 31. Apparently, again, I'm hearing this from all over the place.
So I haven't 18 passes for 133 yards. So let's do.
Oh, that's bad. That's not
quick math on that. That's what I'm saying. So the quick math on that says that's not good. If you're throwing 18 completions and only gain 150 yards, that's less than. I want to say that's less than 8 yards for every reception.
Yeah.
There comes a point where we have to realize we're not the same Florida State team we were just 8 seasons ago winning a national title. There comes a point where we have to realize the dynasty era is over. Bobby Bowden, God rest his soul, is gone. Jimbo Fisher is busy being third place in the SEC West, where he'll end up by the time the season's over. You have to own it, and right now we are pathetic. Thank you. Georgia Ron, exactly. Sometimes you have to be the Victoria's Secret lingerie, and sometimes the Target bra and panties will work out and gets the job done. Write that down. It's good to see the fans are finally agreeing on here. All it took was the most embarrassing loss in program history. Mark, what are you doing?
I'm surveying the chat. So Jeffrey says, Jason, you just gain a whole lot of respect with that question from me, bro.
Well, I appreciate it.
That one.
I asked several questions. I think they all were great, but thank you, Jeffrey Bell. I appreciate it. You know, and let's just be honest. We're a team in repair. So here's the question: what does Florida State need to do? Feed, I will let him go if he ever lost to an FCS team. Oh, that's right, he didn't. What do we need to do to beat Wake Forest? We have to go in there thinking we can beat Wake Forest. This is where we have to turn the corner. We have to turn the corner. He also didn't lose to an FCS team. You guys need to get over this fact. This is once again the continuing blaming of Willie Taggart. What is your beef with Willie Taggart when Mike Norvell just lost to an FCS team? If you didn't like Willie Taggart because of the color of his skin, that's on you. But if you're really willing to defend Mike Norvell after an FCS loss when Willie Taggart never lost to an FCS team, that's on you. I'm not saying that you're racist, John White. I'm not saying that any of the fans are racist. But if you're willing to defend Mike Norvell and willing to go to bat for Mike Norvell after what took place last Saturday, that's a problem. That is a serious problem. Oh, he's 1,000 times better. 1,000 times better as a coach. That 3-8 record is so much better. 100% better.
I can confidently say this, and I think this is reasonable, that we have Willie Taggart's record in the book. It's not going to change. The jury's still out to a certain extent on Mike Norvell, but the early returns are not good. So he's 3-8. Is that neither one of their teams came anywhere close to competing or being at a Florida State standard?
I agree 100% with that. And that's where you have to ask, how empty was the cupboard when Jimbo Fisher left after the 2017 season, when he left before the final regular season game? How empty was that cupboard to the point where we are essentially at the bottom of the barrel? We went from 8 calendar years ago, winning a national title to now being the most embarrassing program. I would argue the most embarrassing program in the ACC right now. Now, it's just 2 games into the season, just 2 weekends, but right now we are the most embarrassing program for 2021. Now, can we turn that around against Wake Forest? Absolutely. Can we go up to Wake Forest? If our defense plays the way they did the first half against Notre Dame, the first 3 quarters against Jacksonville State, Jermaine Johnson is playing like a beast, like an absolute monster. If we can play like that against Wake Forest, we have a legitimate shot. And if the offense can be that target lingerie, sometimes it works. Just do that. You know, you can get out of there. If it's a 17-14 win, I'll take that. The days of flashy victories are over. The days of winning games by 50 points are over. Win by 3 points. Get that first win. You have to get that first win and come home for those 2 games with something. You cannot come home 0-3. If you come home 0-3, I'll say it, the season's over.
Gary, we appreciate you encouraging everyone to smash the like button, subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. Smash that like button. We don't have Logan here to encourage everyone, but hit that like button. Do it for Jason. Do it for me here at the Voice of College Football. Please share these videos out on social media or just do it the old-fashioned way and talk to people. Let them know that we are here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. A couple comments here, Jason. One would be Web Security saying Notre Dame beat you twice. That game would have changed the mindset. That's a reasonable assumption, but that's what it is. We'll never know. We don't know. Other teams bounce back from difficult losses and still are able to recover and play and win the next game.
I'm going to disagree with Web Security on that for a second, but thank you for the comment, Web Security. I have to disagree because I think the mindset was we were going to come in and essentially everyone except blindly loyal Florida State fans thought we were going to get dog stomped by Notre Dame, thought we were going to get beat convincingly. So I think, if anything, there was a moral victory in only losing to Notre Dame by 3 points. I know there's no such thing as moral victories, but there was one by only losing by 3 points. So I don't think you can put those two together. The Jacksonville State loss was what it was. It was an embarrassing loss. Jordan Bowman is right. This is the program-defining game. Where is Florida State now? Florida State went 0-2 to start the 2017 season. Before that, the last time Florida State started a season 0-2, I believe, was 1989. So it has happened very rarely over the last 3.5 decades that Florida State has started a season 0-2. Florida State hasn't started a season 0-3 since 1976. This is yes, Jordan is 100% correct. This is going to be the question. Does this game turn Florida State around to make this season somewhat respectable? Or is this the funeral for the 2021 Seminoles?
I'll frame it this way. And those 2017 back-to-back losses to start the season, much more respectable than what we just witnessed. Of course, Alabama won the national championship that year, and that was a game that they were competitive in, 17-7 in the fourth quarter, lost 24-7. And then North Carolina State, of course, not good, lose at home, but a 9-4 ACC team that finished in the top 25 and lost that game 27-21. So much more respectable losses for sure. The one thing I'll say about Jordan, and I don't want to be nitpicky with his statement here because I do agree, I would state it more like this, that it's a program saving game, meaning that if they win, that if they lose, it may come off the rails, just be historically bad this year. If they win, it's a Band-Aid. It's okay, beat a decent team on the road. It's not necessarily save the season. It at least gets you to the next game with feeling better about it.
As weird as it may be to say this after losing to an FCS opponent, Wake Forest is still a winnable game.
Sure.
It's still a game that Florida State, if you want to go athletes versus athletes, Florida State can still win. Physically, athletically, they can still win this game. Do they have the mental capability to win this game? Are they mentally in a place where, a dangerous team, a team with their backs against the wall is a dangerous team? But how dangerous is this team right now? I hope he's talking about St. Thomas Aquinas there.
What is the comment there? The comment is about getting the St. Thomas Aquinas head coach.
I hope that's the St. Thomas coach, because the coach at St. Thomas University down here, they're not good. But St. Thomas Aquinas, fine high school, state champs last year. I'll cover them this Friday.
I love Cheryl chiming in with the promos here. The Miami show comes up next here at the Voice of College Football. That, of course, on the Miami channel at 7 Eastern.
How much are you paying her for that?
Sadly enough, Cheryl's just a good-hearted gal. We'll say that.
I mean, this weekend is a big weekend. I mean, Florida State, can their season be saved against Wake Forest? Can Manny Diaz lose a winnable game against Michigan State? That's a good Michigan State team.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming down to Miami. Can Alabama beat the state champs of the state of Florida if they beat Florida up in Gainesville? This is an interesting weekend for football in the Sunshine State.
So, Guy is asking a money question. Did Florida State actually pay Willie his buyout after he got the Florida State job? Meaning after he lost the job, if Florida State not out $20 million, they could afford to fire Norvell.
We still owe Willie until 2023. So we are going to be in debt for a little bit of a while, sending checks down into Boca Raton. So,
true.
64 cents a day could help.
The one thing that it's unfortunate that we don't have in this world is some kind of alternate universe where we could say, okay, in this universe, we kept Willie Taggart. We didn't fire him. We kept him. Let's see what would have happened. In this one, he got fired, and we know what's happening, but we'll just never know.
The point is, I'll just leave it this, and I'll say it again. 2/3 of the roster, nearly 2/3 of this roster, is a Mike Norvell roster. You can't. The people here are still continuously bashing Willie Taggart. This was a Norvell roster. This is Norvell's fault. With all that being said, I'm going to end this in a positive manner. I'm going to be the eternal optimist. I'm going to end this in a positive manner. Florida State goes up to Winston-Salem, and this is blind loyalty as a Florida State grad, blindly loyal to the Garnet Gold. I think that the backs are against the wall. I think they turn it around. I swear to God, this is only water in this cup. I promise you. I'm going to say Florida State gets their first win of the season, 20-17. In honor of Jacksonville State, I think Florida State wins 20-17. Dear God, please, I'm begging you.
On a pass with no time on the clock.
Shoot, score 20 points in the first quarter and then hold on. I don't care. At this point, I'm not getting cocky. Just win. Just please get the first win. Why is my landline?
So, Eater Gang 2020, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Only 64 cents a day. You can help a struggling Florida State fan get the love and emotional support they need.
I would take 64 cents right now. I feel like we do look like those dogs in the Sarah McLachlan commercials, In the Arms of an Angel. Like we do. You could tell those fans in the stands were more like, did this just happen? Did we really just lose?
It's a historic week in Florida State football, and not for good reasons.
Not at all.
For Jason Parker, NBC 6, Logan Robinson, wherever you are, Logan, wherever you may be.
Now, I hope if Florida State wins this week, I hope Logan – I want Logan to bring that same energy that he has brought in the past defending Mike Norvell. Win or lose, I want him to bring that same smoke.
Maybe this will be a spike to the Knoll Game Discord, because if you want to know, what they're talking about behind the scenes,
we almost made it through the show, and then you had to do that.
In honor of Logan, I had to do it.
All right, I'll allow it in honor of Logan.
All right. My best during the remainder of Yom Kippur.
I'll enjoy being hangry for 24 hours, and we'll go from there.
And to Florida State fans everywhere, the sun has continued to rise each morning, and we will see you hopefully next Wednesday night at 6 o'clock Eastern time. And if you want to go troll Miami, I don't know what you're going to troll them about. Maybe they're almost lost to App State. We'll be on with Cam Underwood from State of the U in just a few minutes.
Guys, take the L on this one. We take the L, we move on. Just take the L, guys.